Hello, my name is Anant Shivraj and I'm a second-year MBA student and an MBA fellow at the Center for Digital Strategies at the Tuck School of Business at Dartmouth College. I'm pleased to announce Ben Edwards, Vice President of Digital Strategy and Development at IBM, who is joining us today as part of the Brit Technology Impact Series. Welcome to Tuck, Ben, and thank you for being here.
Well, thank you for having me.
Can you tell us more about some of the key aspects of IBM's digital strategy and how it has evolved since you took up your current role in March last year?
So the digital strategy is really about creating a system, right? And you can think of the system as operating on a number of levels, right? It's a system of technology, right? So consistent applications, web services, right? It's a system of information. So that's a consistent information model that runs across the system. It's a system of interactions that are designed, which then create a system of behaviors. So ultimately what we want to be doing is creating a system of behaviors modeled on what we know about what drives value and what the IBM brand stands for, that's consistent across all digital experiences, internal to IBM, external to IBM, mobile, social, web, the cloud, and ultimately our commercial software products.
What role and importance do you see for social media within IBM's strategy?
Our understanding of what the web is sort of gone through an inversion point. I would describe it like this, right? So you could think of a web of pages, right? A web of pages that are indexed by, for example, Google, right? That I then search for documents through Google, right? And then through the Google algorithm, I then find my pathway to the web. So the starting point for my journey being that Google search box, right? But now we have, oh, and by the way, off of those pages, you know, through the advent of Web 2.0, we had things like comments and ratings and reviews, conversation, right, hung off of this web of pages. But now with the advent of you know, Facebook, right, the mass adoption of social networks, you could think of the web as a web of people, right? And I navigate that web through my connections, right? Through who I know, my peers, right? My personal network, my peer network, right? Off of which hang documents, pages, right? You know, I'm passing URLs through those connections. So, you know, social media, I mean, what are we designing for when we're designing these digital experiences? Are we designing for networks of people? Or are we designing for, you know, hypertext linked networks of pages? I think you have to do both.
That's a very interesting way to look at it. Now, if you focus inside IBM, how do you see, give us some examples rather of the way social media is used inside IBM?
At its most base level, it's a communications platform, right? So, you know, inside of IBM, we have a wiki, let me give you an example. We have a wiki tool inside IBM called Wiki Central. There's 200,000, you know, authorized users of Wiki Central, right? And between them, you know, in 2009, well, let's say 2010, they probably created about 1 million web pages between them, right? It's quite a lot of web pages. And what are those things? Usually everything from, you know, project management, you know, running my team, right? You know, all that sort of stuff. The stuff that, everything you want to do to get your work done, right? You know, we have a media tool inside IBM. You can create, upload, share, download audio, photo, video, right? So we've had 10 million downloads through that tool. We have 17,000 bloggers on our blogging tool at IBM, right? So, you know, so there's that sort of category. You think of it as, you know, oil in the machine, right? And, you know, characteristics of IBM, we have a fully virtualized workforce, right? So it really doesn't matter if you're in the physical location that you're tied to or not, right? What matters is the presence you signal online, right, through, you know, our digital, you know, our virtual workplace, right? And very, very distributed, right? So, you know, on my team, you know, we are building teams that are, you know, the developers are in India and Vietnam, in Bratislava, right? So very, very distributed, and these technologies help us integrate and work together. The second category would be around changing how the means of production happen, right? So a very early example of this, externally at IBM is DeveloperWorks, which is a community of software developers who are united in their desire to build on top of open web technologies like Java, right? So 300,000 of them, right? And IBM has built, multi-billion-dollar services businesses around them, right? And applications, like WebSphere and so on that leverage, right, this community.
If you were to look forward from here, what do you think would be the role of social media as businesses set and achieve their business goals and their processes?
So I think it's not, we're probably not at a dissimilar point to, the sort of mid to late 90s with the advent of e-business. You remember e-business? Mm-hmm. So e-business basically said the web is going to re-engineer the corporation, and it has done, right? And it takes time, of course, but it has done. I think social computing will have a similar sort of impact, right? Ultimately, it's going to re-engineer the corporation. And, you start thinking about, well, what might be measures of that, right? That right, that that re-engineering has happened, right, at a really high level. One might be the amount of conversation that happens prior to purchase versus the amount of conversation that happens after purchase, right? I have this idea, particularly in, the more complex thing that you're selling, right? Things that require implementation, you look at some of the things that we sell at IBM, there's an awful lot of conversation that happens after the purchase, right? Or after the contract signed, right? What is this? How does it work? How am I going to make it work? How do I get it to, do the thing that it was meant to do, right? I would imagine, as the corporation re-engineers itself around essentially conversation, right? And discussion, what will happen is, a much greater amount of conversation will be happening prior to the purchase, such that, by the time the purchase actually happens, all of those questions are already answered, in part because the product or the service itself has been fully tailored, and specified, according to all of that knowledge that we were able to glean prior to the, the actual moment of purchase.
Right. Yeah, and finally, you talked both about using social media and interacting with customers and also within the organization. Drawing upon your own experiences at The Economist and now at IBM, how would you characterize the differences in using social media internally within the organization, say to improve collaboration, engagement, even innovation, as opposed to using it as a marketing tool?
So it's just that, right? That this is another way of saying, social computing will re-engineer the corporation. Right. It'll re-engineer every aspect of the corporation, right? So you look at the sort of spectrum of value, right? And how we create value as corporations. We create value through, how we attract and engage and create advocacy, in our customer base, right? We create value through, how we leverage our assets for, top and bottom line, operating excellence. We create value through efficiency, productivity. We create value through, how we attract, retain, motivate, engage, energize our employees. And, social computing, I think, if you look at the best practices that are emerging, you can identify them in each of those categories, right? So, yeah, it'll transform marketing as well, right? Because, it's communications technology, and communications is foundational to every function the corporation performs and every relationship with every constituent.
Right. Ben, on behalf of the Center for Digital Strategies, I thank you for being here with us. I'm sure our audience will have a lot to learn insights from what you've said. Signing off, this has been Anant Shivraj for the Center for Digital Strategies at the Tuck School of Business.
Thank you.
Thank you.